On behalf of all the panelists, we're honored to join you in Treaty 4 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. And I'd like to thank Prairie South School Division and Riverview Collegiate for hosting this event. It's great to see so many students, parents, teachers, and community members here tonight. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this important conversation on school-related anxiety and youth mental health in general. My name's Ellen Whiteman, and I'm the manager of the McDowell Foundation. McDowell is a nonprofit independent charity funded by the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. The McDowell Foundation provides funding for teacher-led research in the province, like the project you're about to hear. For 25 years, the McDowell Foundation has been supporting teacher and other educator researchers who are passionate about enriching the teaching and learning experience in our province. We're excited to share what we've learned tonight, and we're excited to have you hear what our panelists have to say. So let's get started.
As Ellen mentioned, I'm in inclusive education at the Faculty of Education. My specific area of interest and research is looking at the relationship between mental health and learning and how those two affect each other. You know, one can positively affect the other and negatively affect the other, and it's bi-directional relationship. So that's my specific area. And I've become very interested in mental health in schools and the roles schools can play for quite a while now, for both personal and professional reasons. And I wanted to say that it's something that's been recognized for a long time, since 1995. The World Health Organization recognized the roles that schools could and should play and really considered schools in a good position to work towards student mental health. And on that note, I'm passing it over to Jen.
So my name is Jen also. I work with Prairie South Schools as a learning consultant. I also have a 4-month-old son, so it's the first time I've been called a parent, which is kind of interesting. But I'll apologize in advance. I might have to step out quickly. My son's refusing a bottle right now, so that's why I was late coming in. Over the past couple of years, I've been working with Jen on the Action Research project that she named. I got involved with this project when Jen approached me when I was a student in one of her inclusive ed classes at the U of R at night a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, we just had the same interest and clicked. First night in the class. It was amazing. So before I really get started into the research we did, I want to make clear what we're talking about when we talk about mental health. Mental health is basically, it's the state of well-being that when an individual realizes their potential, their abilities, they can cope with the normal stressors in life, they can work productively, and they can contribute to their community. It's not the opposite of mental illness, and I need to make this clear because they are two distinct things. You can have a mental illness and still have good mental health. So it's important to realize that. And if you want to think of it as mental health as being like physical health, that's probably the best way to think of it, and a spectrum, of course, of physical health, a spectrum of mental health. That's all I want to say generally, and I'll jump right into the research. The purpose of our research was twofold. We wanted to find out what anxieties high school students were experiencing in the schools, because we can't affect the outside, but we can affect the inside. So we talked to the students. That was one of the questions. Find out what they're experiencing, and secondly, what we can do about it. So what they suggest teachers, administrators, schools, etc., can do about it. We looked, our population that we had for participants was 24 students from grades 9 to 11, and we collected data through two means. One of them was a journal entry. We gave them anonymous journals where it was identified only with a number, not their names. So for 10 weeks, we gave them a prompt, something about mental health, anxieties, school-related anxiety specifically, and asked them to write about it. So they took 10 to 15 minutes a week after the prompt to write about it. And then the other thing we did was arrange focus groups, which is, if you don't know, it's a small group. We have a conversation and it can elaborate on things. So we had 5 to 6 students in each of the focus groups. And we had one at the beginning of the semester, the middle of the semester, and at the end of the semester. And we talked to the students, expanded upon what they were writing in their journals, and kind of dug a little bit deeper. So with that, I won't go into too much in terms of the details of the findings, and Jen was going to take that and run, but she's running. A very, very quick overview, I do want to make 2 comments, so I might have a minute to do that. One of the things that I expected to find it, but one of the things that surprised me was how widespread school-related anxiety was. 23 out of the 24 students identified some form, some aspect of school-related anxiety. So only 1 said that they didn't experience any school-related anxiety. Pretty broad spread. One of the things I also want to mention is that they get it. They know anxiety. I'm going to give you a quote of one of the participants. One of the questions we asked them in their prompts was, if anxiety was a color, what would it be? And this is written by one of the students. I think anxiety would be a very deep, dark blue, because anxiety reminds me of the feeling I get when I've been underwater for too long. And the ocean gets darker the deeper you get. The worse the anxiety, the deeper you are. The deeper you get, the more suffocating it is. And that's really struck me. I thought they got it. So that was kind of the overview. And Jen is nicely in time, and I get to hold Rowan. Yeah, we get to go. Perfect timing. Your turn.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go over the top 5 findings. This is Rowan, everyone. He's a little tired, I think. I'll go over the top 5 findings that we had, and then the top 3, we'll talk about the recommendations that students made. And keep in mind, this is school-related anxiety. So the leading cause, they said, were final exams or tests, at 92% of our students said that. They identified test anxiety as the #1 reason they experience anxiety at school, because of fear of failure, due to the high-stakes nature of testing and final exams, because of the high amount of time they spend studying, and because of additional pressures like other classes, homework, and maintaining a job. So even though we're talking about school-related anxiety, they did identify, outside factors. The second leading cause that they identified was involved social situations at school. So 67% of our students said that gave them anxiety. They said this was, students identified the main reason for social anxiety as fear of judgment from others, which I don't think is a shock, or what people will think of me. That's a quote that we got a lot. The third leading cause of their anxiety at school was in relation to class presentations at 63%, again for fear of failure, fear of judgment again from their peers. They are uneasy with their peers watching them, and they experience anxiety when speaking in front of crowds, and those are all the words of the students. Fourth was homework, and this only came in at 17% of our students said they experienced anxiety around homework. They said that it was because they had a hard time managing school, homework, expectations, part-time jobs, saving for money for university, and sleep. So there's lots of other factors that are going into this. And then finally, the fifth was pressure from their parents at 13%. So students identified their parents as an added pressure and said that their anxiety was sometimes rooted in stressful situations at home, making it harder for them to focus at school. For the recommendations, so some of these come right from our students, and some of them were sort of a collaborative effort between the 2 of us and some of what the students said. So for final exams or tests, we're recommending for teachers to consider alternate formats, such as open book finals, or something that involves higher level questionings that focus on learning and not memorization. Providing the students wanted more opportunities to catch up. We suggested a better pace maybe, but they wanted more time to review, so I know we offer at lunch or after school, things like that. And then one interesting one was provide an anonymous question box. So students, again, for that fear of judgment from others, they suggested to provide that box so they could safely and without being judged, ask questions in the classroom. For social situations, they said to connect them with older students through relationship building and school-wide community building, so hosting events like barbecues, things like that. They wanted to get to know their classmates better by playing games in the classroom, and they wanted the teachers to find a balance between the teacher choosing the groups and the students choosing the groups. And if you're a teacher, you know that can go. And class presentations, the third leading cause, we said to provide choices or options for presentation and audience that would build the expectations through a tiered approach. So, starting with just the teacher one-on-one, maybe moving to a chosen group of friends to present in front of. One of the students said that they stood at the back of the class and their teacher let them put the PowerPoint on the front, and everyone looked at the front and not them, and that took a lot of the pressure away. or to present to younger students to build confidence. I think some of our older students said it'd be really cool if they could present to like a grade 1 class or something, so just to build confidence. And then they also said to present in groups instead of alone. And so those are our general recommendations from students.
And I know we're in the essence of time. I won't say too much more. We have, we really compiled what Jen was talking about and thought more broadly as well, and came up with a list of 10 ways teachers can support students. I want to highlight a couple more. One is that it kept reoccurring. Students said they wanted a genuine relationship with a teacher. And I say genuine because, especially high school students, they're very well aware of what's real and what's not. So make sure it's a genuine relationship you're establishing with your students. Talk about mental health. They said, let's have conversations, and it's partly what we're going to show you in a minute. Put it on the table. Let's discuss it. Let's reduce the stigma. Let's make it part of the normal conversation. The other thing they said, which actually struck me as a little bit surprising, is they said they were very well aware that life is full of stress. So you can't get rid of the stress. So teach us how to manage the stress. Okay, so it's another key point, which I was very pleased to see them come up with this themselves. In response to what Jen said about the teacher that let the student present with PowerPoint at the back, be observant. If you notice things that students are uncomfortable about something, observe it, respond to it, and check back in. So, having that, being sensitive really to the student's needs, being aware. So I won't say anything else, much more at all, but I do want to mention this, that I saw some of you guys pick this up, and it's, I would encourage it. This is really a poster, a synopsis of what our research has found, and it's double-sided for a purpose, basically. One side is for teachers, and it gives the information about the research itself and the findings we had and some of the suggestions. So that's really an info piece for teachers. And then the flip side is we're hoping teachers will post this, because this side is for students, letting students know that there's anxiety in the real world, starting the conversation, being a conversation starter, basically, as well as providing some resource materials. Okay, students often think people think they are often alone, but this gives you some phone numbers and areas they can go to as resources. And that's about it for my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen and Jen both, and for your help.
Yeah.
And Rowan, yes.
He's very
Rowan.
attentive.
So just a little bit about Prairie South. I know that most of you probably have a sense of who we are and how big we are, but we have about 6,700 students from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 in Prairie South in 40 schools. We have about 525 full-time equivalent teachers, but with all of our employees together, we have about 1,500 employees in Prairie South, and we span quite a large geographical area. It takes about 3 hours to drive from the furthest south point to the furthest north point. Hey, Shane, 3? More, you think? More than that. Okay. I'm thinking Mankota to Craik. About 3 hours? A little more? Okay. So we are pretty large. I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to talk to you about something called Our School. So Our School is a data collection tool that we use. It used to be called Tell Them From Me, and so you've probably heard about it as Tell Them From Me, and now they call it Our School, but it's, from what I can tell, exactly the same thing. And so this is an anonymous survey that students complete independently from grades 4 through 12. They do it every spring, and then each school receives its own data back, and then as a division we receive data, and then because we do it across the province, we have some provincial data, and we also have national standards. So when I went through our data, I picked out a few points when I thought about anxiety and some of the factors that they've talked about and what contributes to anxiety and how does that display. When I look at the results from our grade 4 to 6 students, and I think, and they were asked about their sense of belonging. Did they have a positive sense of belonging? Because that would be something that would contribute to anxiety. We are actually below the national average. So 76% of our students felt a positive sense of belonging in grades 4 to 6, but 86% of students nationally felt that way. They were asked about positive relationships at school. Do they have friends at school? And we're about on average in Prairie South in grades 4 to 6. 84% said they do versus a national average of 80. And they were also asked about their anxiety levels directly. And so the students that reported a moderate to high level of anxiety in grades 4 to 6 in Prairie South is higher than the national average. So we're at about 23%, whereas the national average is about 16%. So that's our elementary students. I also took a look at the high school students, and they have some similar questions. I picked out 4 from there. I also looked at the sense of belonging. And we're right about on national average. 67% of our grade 7 to 12 students feel a positive sense of belonging, as opposed to 71% nationally. 73% reported positive relationships or having friends at school, as opposed to 76% nationally. In the area of self-report of moderate to high levels of depression, so feeling sad, and it's actually described in the survey what they mean by depression. They don't just use that word. We're a little bit higher, 23% of our 7 to 12 students versus 18% nationally. And then positive self-esteem, we're a little bit lower. So 73% of our students reported that they have positive self-esteem, whereas 77% reported nationally. So we're right around the national average on all of those things, but on some of the key ones where we'd like to be a little bit higher, we're a little bit lower than we should be. Just some of the things that we do in Prairie South to support students with their mental health, besides the numerous curricular outcomes that address that through the grades. We also have a partnership with Mental Health and Addictions in the city of Moose Jaw here, where they actually come to our high schools. The mental health and addictions workers will come to the high schools and work with kids directly there, rather than having them go to a clinic, which can be another form of stigma, something that they want to avoid. We are actually offering in January mental health first aid for our teachers to take part in, and we're doing that with gratefulness to the Ministry of Education. They offered it out as a small grant to support that. So we'll be able to have, I think it's about 22 of our teachers trained in mental health first aid. That's a 2-day workshop in January, and that's also a partnership with Mental Health and Addictions, because they provide the training for us basically close to cost. We also have been working and offering parenting groups in the evening with our partners at Mental Health and Addictions. Parenting Your Anxious Child is one that's offered pretty regularly. And there are various student groups that we run focused on anxiety, and not just on that side, but also on the other side, all of the clubs, activities, those kinds of things that we offer to try to help students feel that sense of belonging and feel engaged, and gives another outlet for teachers to get to know their students in that genuine way that they were looking for. So that's probably the biggest pieces that I wanted to share with you about what we're doing in Prairie South right now with regards to anxiety. Thank you.
So I guess our overall goal at the YMCA is to reduce anxiety and provide students with coping skills through our programs. And we do this through the development of social and emotional learning competencies. So there are 5 core competencies that we try to focus on at the YMCA through our programs, and I'll discuss our programs a little bit, but just some background. So self-awareness, so for children and youth, so knowing what they're feeling in the moment. Social awareness, so understanding what other children are feeling, what other adults, what other people are feeling. Self-management, so handling our emotions and our behaviors in effective ways. Relationship skills, so establishing and maintaining healthy and rewarding relationships based on cooperation, resistance to inappropriate social pressures, so peer pressure as we would say, negotiating solutions to conflict, seeking help when needed. And responsible decision making. So making decisions based on accurate consideration of all the relevant factors and consequences for those decisions. So we tailor how we present this material to students from grades 2 all the way up to grade 12. So we do this through a variety of different programs that work in partnerships, as I said, with the schools to build resiliency in our students, so that when anxiety surfaces, when situations arise that are going to cause them anxiety, tests, etc., they have more tools in their toolbox to cope with those things. That's our overall goal. So we partner with schools to provide a caring adult directly in or out of the schools to provide students with more opportunities for building positive relationships, reinforcing those social skills, etc., and receiving intervention and support as needed. So one of the programs that we run is called Steps for Success. It's a program for both elementary students in the Holy Trinity School Division and high school age students in Prairie South. It's a preventative measure for students who find themselves experiencing difficulties in their academic and social development. So one of the things we really say to our kids is this is not a punishment. If a student has come to us, it's an opportunity. So usually they've had a stumble, a fall. Maybe they're not being as successful as they're capable of being, and how do we get you back on track for that? So students spend a minimum of 3 days with a youth worker. They catch up on schoolwork, and they participate in one-on-one and small group workshops. So we help to empower these students to use problem solving and critical thinking skills. Participate in recreation and stress management, so maybe we do some yoga or whatever it is that helps them manage their stress. Learn to manage their personal lives through enhancing self-respect and respect for others. So that's that program. We also facilitate the Shared Services Mentorship Program through the YMCA. So we have over 100 kids in our mentorship program this year. Mentors and mentees work one-on-one and in small groups, both in and out of school, on activities that enhance self-esteem, self-regulation, and resiliency skills. We use the zones of regulation quite a lot with this age group. So activities are designed to meet the needs and interests of the children, all the mentees, develop their life skills, self-confidence, and their connections to the community. Another program that we facilitate is Girl Power. So this actually arose out of the Tell Them From Me data, which is now named Our School. With the level of girls experiencing higher anxiety and depression rates across the board. So we wanted to specifically focus on our girls. This was a way to build self-awareness and skills for feeling their thoughts, problem solving, trust, social support networks, and their leadership skills as girls in our community. And so we offer 3 levels of intervention through Girl Power. Weekly, we run in-school group workshops and activities for a group of girls to just have fun and build their friendship skills. We run small group workshops and activities as well, directly in the schools as per request of the schools. So if a school has a group of girls that they're interested in building their skills together, maybe there's some conflict within the classroom, we can come in and run some programs. And then we run a twice-a-month leadership group for girls in grades 8 to 10, where they interact and learn from influential and successful women in our community to empower them to be all that they can be. So those are 3 examples of programs that the YMCA operates from a community perspective to try and help our children develop those resiliency skills for anxiety. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. I'm a Sioux First Nations girl from Treaty 6, and my home reserve is Whitecap. My traditional name is Beautiful Thunder Voice, and I believe I was given that voice to speak today. I'm in grade 11 at Central Collegiate in Moose Jaw. I stand here today with this book of 94 calls to action and this glass beaded orange shirt, which has traveled all over. These are special to me and were gifted to me by Eugene Arcan, who sat on the Truth and Reconciliation Survivor Committee. Eugene is a very special part of my journey, and I live my life in honor of every survivor and every spirit who has left us. My family had attended residential schools, and it is very hard for them to talk about, but I traditional dance and speak to show my love and support to all of them. Today, I would like to share part of my story so you may get a quick sense of what some First Nations kids are going through. My journey has not been easy, but to share this is part of my reconciliation to healing. This trauma is very real for me and is something hard to share. Very early in my life, my culture became very important to my family. I was like any other kid, or so I thought. But as time went by, I wondered why kids started to pick on me. I remember in grade 6, I wore moccasins to school and being made fun of. My moccasins were handmade and so special to me. They were beaded beautifully and smelled of tanned hide. I was so proud of them. Kids started to say I smelled like bacon and plugged their noses. I was scared and so hurt, but wanted to fit in, so I took my moccasins home and never wore them again. For the rest of the year, I just tried to fit in, but it really wasn't me. I was told at home to be proud,
but I didn't feel very proud at school. The next couple of years didn't get very better for me. I was told to go back to my tribe and, "You stupid Indian, go die." There were days I didn't want to go to school anymore because I couldn't handle it. My mom tried to help me so much. I went to the school lots to try and get help, but it didn't help the hurt I had inside. I was just a girl who wanted to go to school, but instead was becoming scared and ashamed of who I was. The school I went to said I could just stay home for the rest of grade 8 because I was going to graduate anyways. Why should I have to stay home from a place that I'm supposed to be safe and supposed to learn? Racism and bullying were very much a reality for me. I spent many days in my room crying and trying to figure this all out. To be honest, I was scared of the same place my family was scared of, and that was school. My Aunt Val, who's in the spirit world, came to me in a dream, and I believe she saved my life, and this is why I'm here today. How was I ever going to get to grade 9? I was scared, actually quite terrified. In grade 9, I started to share my story openly to try and heal and bring awareness of how things truly are. Now in grade 11, I am on the honor roll but have to work very hard at this as I have a hard time trusting teachers and fitting in. So at times it's hard to concentrate on classroom study. It's being accepted and always wondering who will make a hurtful comment next that makes me nervous each day. A few teachers at my school who know my story have really helped me get through these last few years. And I'm so thankful for Mr. Rollick, Mr. Carter, and Miss Adams, who have helped me and given me so much support. I want to do the best I can in school, as my dream is to study law and try to make a difference in a positive way. I am disappointed with our Minister of Education comments last week. As a First Nation student, this was sad to hear. We go through so many struggles in school that other kids will never have to face, so to hear someone like her make those remarks are hard for me. This is the first year that each day when school starts, we recognize treaties and treaty people, which I thought was good. But after overhearing part of a conversation last week between a student and 2 teachers, it makes me sad and embarrassed that we recognize this. Once again, I feel unsafe. Sometimes I don't even say anything anymore because it's just too hard to speak up. I feel ashamed again of who I am. And many days I still don't want to go to school. My school offers French, German, and Spanish, and I think in the spirit of reconciliation, it would be nice if one of our high schools taught a First Nations language class. If we wanted to take it, one school could at least offer it. Our language is so important for the journey to reconciliation. I would like to see one of these books in each classroom across our province. It only takes one person to pick it up and read it and maybe even start a conversation about reconciliation and how we can start to learn and heal together. I want to leave you today to think about what your reconciliation will be. Mine will be to talk and learn as much as I can about the past to heal our future. I hope today we can all be part of that together. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone, and I've really appreciated listening to the synthesis of good ideas here, and I want to take this away and think about it for a while, and I look forward to thinking with you tonight as we further the dialogue. I'm going to reference the poster that was advertising this particular event, and just give you a little bit of an overview of what the 3 key focus areas were and what I intend to zero in on. And so the roundtable conversation is focusing, as you can well tell, the impact of school-related anxiety on students, and we've heard some of that certainly. Both mainly from students, but also as interpreted by the action researchers here as well. The second area is how the education sector and other partners can address school-related anxiety, and that's where I'm going to kind of zero in on tonight, because I think it's a way to maybe end the panel discussion, but also open it up to you, the partners out there in the community. And the third key area, of course, was how anxiety connects to broader conversations about youth mental health, and what those ongoing conversations should and could be, and what the corresponding outcomes there would look like. So as I go back to my focus here, how the education process and other partners can address school-related anxiety, and I'm a process person. I'm a teacher at heart, and I know there's teachers here tonight, and we are facilitators and process people, and so we're always looking for ways to address the problems that we have in our particular classrooms and schools, but always look out there for help. And so in answering that question, how the education sector and other partners can address school-related anxiety, I have an answer. And it's an answer to provoke some thought amongst this group. And that answer is through intentional processes that foster a collective efficacy on the part of those who directly influence and are impacted by a particular issue, in this case, school-related anxiety. So how the education sector and other partners can address school-related anxiety? Through intentional processes that foster that collective efficacy on the part of those who directly influence and are impacted by a particular issue. And we've outlined what that particular issue is here tonight. So as evidenced in the panel presentation here tonight, I would propose that those closest to the issues are best situated to define, describe, and work to resolve it. So we've heard some of those voices here tonight defining, describing, and now we look to resolve. I'm putting forward this premise of those closest to the situation in a philosophy that's rooted in a community development philosophy, and I've heard that said here tonight. What is it that the community can do to address the situation? And so the community development philosophy is based on that. It's an ideal of respect for each individual person and their right and responsibility to participate in the affairs of the community with the concerns for the common good. So community development programs are planned to achieve the active participation of all in solving the problems that exist in the community. And such a program is characterized through what I was hearing here, through action research, or could be characterized by that. So it's characterized by change in response to changing needs, continuous experimentation, and you heard here tonight what some of the recommendations were for teachers to try out. So continuous experimentation to seek out satisfactory ways of achieving common goals, and then careful evaluation of the results of its activities. So are some of these recommendations that the students have come up with working? Now, I would extend that beyond the school to actually involve the students and community partners, parents, in that process of reflective practice or action research. It's a great teaching and learning and transformational tool. So as I refer then, I'm just going to refer to this particular document. I see here that the purpose of the study, as Jen had outlined, is to further our understanding of anxiety experienced by high school students and how these anxieties can be mitigated. So I want to underline or highlight the word our, and mitigated by whom. Now, we've identified in this initial part of the action research process teachers, because that's the focus here. But I'm wanting to think about who should be part of that mitigation process and who constitutes community. teacher, of course, student, parent, both individually and collectively, and of course others, outside organizations, employers, organizations that have the services that can be accessed. So I want us to explore in terms of next steps, because that's one of the focuses here tonight of this particular session is like, so here's what, so what, now what? And the now what I would invite us to consider is extending the inquiry into practice model that has been alluded here to tonight as that intentional process to mobilize a community to conduct simultaneous and intersecting action research projects to seek out ways to co-mitigate school-related anxiety amongst high school students. So students as researchers, teachers as researchers, community partners, employers as researchers. It's an iterative, ongoing process, and it's built on community. So I look forward to the conversation and the engagement, and thank you.
Thanks again to all of our panelists. I think we should give them a round of